Crowhill here. Today we review a stout and ask if we are addicted to safety. Hey, good evening, Pigweed. How's it going?
Crowhill, it's going just fine.
So what are we drinking here?
This is a stout from a local brewer in Virginia.
Lost Rhino, yes.
Lost Rhino.
All right, fantastic.
Lost Rhino. Very good, very good. What's on your mind?
Well, I was worried about having kids over, and kids can fall down the stairs.
Yeah.
Right. So I got those pool noodles. You can get the pool noodles from the dollar store.
Yeah.
So I lined those up and down on the sides on all the stairs.
Yeah.
And I put like a inflatable mattress down at the bottom of the stairs.
Yeah.
And then installed like a bunch of just like bubble wrap sort of things on each one of the stairs.
Yeah, that sounds expensive and inconvenient.
Well, it makes a little bit of noise when you go up and down the stairs. I got to replace the bubble wrap every once in a while.
Yeah.
But the kids are safe.
Yeah, because no amount of inconvenience can make up for a child with a bruised elbow.
I know, exactly. In fact, I would feel so bad. I feel so bad.
So, Shooter McMunn's Irish-style stout, named after the family pub in Ballybunion, County Kerry, Ireland.
Okay.
And look at that dark thing there, huh? I mean, that thing is frightening.
Well, so, I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to get a lot of calories, and, am I going to be able to drive home after drinking this thing?
Well, you know how stouts are. Wow, they are so... Let me get the numbers on this one here. Okay. It is... So, it's 4%.
4%. That's less than a Miller Lite.
That's less than a Miller Lite.
Okay.
Which is actually the case with most stouts, kids. I was trying to think of, on St. Paddy's Day, we went to that pub and drank... It wasn't Murphy's. Well, definitely wasn't Guinness. But
it was some other Irish stout.
It was really good.
It was very good.
Well, how about this one?
Yeah, I like it. It's got that good roasty flavor to it. And that's supposed to be what distinguishes a stout from a porter, right? Is that roasted barley kind of flavor?
Yeah, that's what they say. And
it's good. It's got that. It tastes dark. It tastes like dark malts.
Yeah,
and that's good.
Yeah, maybe, right, dark chocolatey bitterness, they say. So, Ashburn, Virginia, that's where
on the front of the tongue, front of your tongue, you get the chocolate, and in the rest of your mouth, you get the sharp dark malt flavor. Yeah, very interesting. I like it.
Isn't that where the headquarters of the Redskins, the
Ashburn?
Team formerly known as the R Word?
Ashburn, I think they were out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I went to Lost Rhino one time.
Okay.
Yeah, out that way. Okay, so what is this topic here?
Safety. Well, I saw a little video about growing up in the 70s.
Yeah.
And it was, you rode a big wheel.
Yeah.
Until it just wore through the
Totally, yeah.
And then you got on a Schwinn bike and, you did your Evel Knievel stunts.
Right.
Nobody'd ever heard of a helmet.
Right.
But the video is like, we're raised on tap water and profound parental neglect.
And it wasn't...
relative to today, kind of was.
So my mother told me this story. My mother was out on the front porch, and the front porch was a concrete front porch, right? And my oldest brother was toddling around, and my grandmother was there with him on the front porch. And my oldest brother started to fall down, and my mother reached out to catch him. And my grandmother said, "Don't do that." That's how they learn.
Hello, Grandma. Yes, and I think we'll get into the definition of safetyism and the need to learn. But let's continue reminiscing about the hazards of the childhood.
Walking home from school, elementary school. Home from elementary school, there was a creek. And I wasn't supposed to go down to the creek, but of course we did anyway. And who's going to know? So you walk home along the creek, especially in the winter, because it would freeze over sometimes, right? And you'd be walking along on the ice, and sometimes it would break through, and you'd get your feet wet. And
then you'd have to sneak into the house
and take off
your mom
wet
didn't know
shoes.
that you were actually walking on ice that you've been told to never do.
Yes. Yeah.
But of course your parents didn't know where they were. I saw some Gen Xer was like, is it true that your parents didn't know where you were, and you just came home when the streetlights came on? Is that, come on?
Of course it's true. It's totally true. You leave in the morning, you go to the pool, you go to your friend's house, you do this, you do that.
You got thirsty, you drink from a hose.
Yeah. And you come home, when it was time for dinner.
Yeah.
And you'd go out and you'd be playing football on the street.
And the lights, right, in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
And they're like, car!
Yeah, and then everybody gets out of the way. And then, right. And if you fall down and skin yourself, well, that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
I remember riding a bike, coming down this hill, and you know how gravel and sand kind of collects at the intersection of a couple of roads?
Yep.
Yeah. So I was going right through that patch of sand, slid out on my bike, scraped up my side of my face,
Right.
and, didn't have a helmet, didn't have...
I didn't think about it.
Yeah.
Did your parents ever put mercurochrome on your
Only when we were fishing, because you'd get cut, fishing, but usually at home it was
peroxide,
hydrogen peroxide or alcohol or something.
Yeah, something that the devil's spawn.
But we always had that little bottle of the red stuff in the tackle box if you cut yourself or something.
Okay, well that's fun.
Yeah.
So it's just that it's not that your parents didn't care about you.
Yeah.
It's just that safety first is not right in the forefront of all things all the time.
But they thought that it was an important part of growing up was learning how to deal with that stuff. Like, for example, walking to the library. There were a couple of dogs that I didn't like between home and the library. And my dad wasn't going to drive me to the library just so I would avoid these dogs,
Or some ruffians on the next block.
Exactly, yeah. Just, you got to learn to deal with it. Or don't go. Your choice. So that's the way it goes. Or you go down to... We could walk, I don't know, it's probably a mile to the highs.
Yeah.
And go down there and buy a soda or whatever and walk home. Nobody thought twice about it. Sure, walk down there.
Yeah.
And then when I got older and I had a driver's license, I asked if I could, is it okay if I drive to Pittsburgh? Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and I never, I don't remember what year seatbelts became a law. But I never saw a single person my entire life before it was a law put on a seatbelt.
I don't remember it at all.
On those bench seats, of course, there's a shoulder strap thing. Mm-hmm. I don't know where that thing came from. It was just belts, and they were just jammed so far down.
I know, you couldn't even find them.
You couldn't find
them if you wanted to, because they were way down underneath, because nobody ever used them.
Kids are crawling around and standing on the hump.
When we went on a family trip, I would always be in the way back in the station wagon.
Yeah.
So my job was, I was basically in there amongst all the luggage, and my job was to hand out sodas and sandwiches and beers, as
that happens too. Yeah.
As we were driving down the interstate.
So there's all this, so then the idea of like baby proofing.
Yeah.
Came along. Now I can remember like poison control commercials, PSAs, and the little latch that you put in there. So that was like those little things that you put in the sockets.
Right.
Like a padding around a coffee table.
Right.
Grandma was like, well, what?
Yeah. So some of those things are smart.
Yeah.
Like a choking hazard, for example. You can't, that's something you turn around and the kid's all of a sudden choking. You don't want that. So I get that. But a lot of the things, okay, you hurt yourself and then you learn don't do that.
Yes.
And that's what Grandma was saying.
Yes.
You fall down and you learn, oh, I need to not fall down on the concrete. Or something like, something that's sharp. Pocket knife, having a pocket knife and whittling. And you cut yourself. Yeah, you cut yourself. Okay, you'll get over it.
Yeah, you're right. And you're like, he's probably going to cut himself. Yeah, he's probably going to cut himself.
He's probably going to cut himself. And then he'll learn not to do that.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes. So that's kind of how we dealt with physical danger. And then there became like the danger of the unknown.
Yeah.
That's when stranger danger came along. And that, to me, that coincided with 24-hour news. Like if a kid was abducted, it was a local story like anything else.
Yeah.
But now you've got 24 hours of news to fill, and so now you hear about a kid being abducted in California.
I think I heard an interesting explanation for why that became such a big deal. So that was also right around the time.
Was it, early 80s?
Yeah, it's also right around the time when a lot more women were going into the workforce.
Mm-hmm.
And
Workers' guilt?
Yes, they would feel guilty that they weren't there watching their kids.
What kind of danger could be happening to them?
Yes, exactly. They're all worried about of course they are. They're worried about their family, and they're not there to watch them. Mm-hmm. So it kind of magnifies the danger in their mind.
Right.
Because I should be home. That's the feeling. And so that made playing off that fear very successful.
Yeah.
For the news people. People aren't just reporting stories because they like to. They're reporting stories because it's going to get viewers.
Yes, and those ones that, most abductions, most abuse, are people you know. Mm-hmm. But they're not as sexy as
strange.
Being abducted from your bedroom or something like that.
Right. And that happens every once in a while.
But it didn't start in the 80s.
No.
Right? So people right? It's always happened. It's not good, but it wasn't part of our mindset.
Yes. It was a toxic mix of several things.
Yeah.
It was the nationalization of news. It was the cable TV increasing coverage of all kinds of things. Yeah, right. And it was women feeling bad because they're not home to watch their kids. So it was a lot of things coming together that kind of made this stranger danger thing such a big issue in that time.
Yeah. So let's talk about Mr. Haidt, Jonathan Haidt, and Greg.
Greg Lukianoff.
Right.
The Coddling of the American Mind.
Yeah. So he's a social scientist, mm-hmm. and so he had picked up on a trend some years ago, and go ahead.
Yeah, so the basic trend was that the iPhone ruined people.
Yes, he had sort of nailed down
when this happened.
Basically, what is wrong with kids on campus? Mm-hmm. And so, as a social scientist, kind of backed it up and said, "Well, how did we get here?"
Yeah, and what he means by what's wrong with kids on campus is when I was a kid, if somebody said something that you didn't like, okay. So what? He said something you didn't like.
Yes, this is right. This is what he means by the coddling of the American mind. So we talked about the protecting physical danger. Mm-hmm. Then we talked about the fear of the unknown. Then it became emotional safety,
discomfort.
Emotional safety became a thing.
Right.
It's like
what in the world does that mean?
You have the right to not be upset. You have the right to people to not say mean things or hear uncomfortable ideas. Yeah. What the hell's going on?
It's a crazy idea.
So he tracked it back to. Yeah. So when the smartphone, social media Facebook was already out there.
Yeah.
But you had to go home and go on dial-up and probably sit in the same room as your parents and mm-hmm. whatever. You only had a certain number of minutes per month, right? So you just couldn't.
Well, once you had the surveillance device in your hand, you could be in your bedroom on chat with all your friends, and that bullying was a big problem, and just the kind of the group think and everybody ganging up on somebody. It was because the thing is, people like to talk about children being innocent. Children are monsters, and they're mean to one another, and especially girls. I mean, girls don't physically fight as much as guys do. What they do is they destroy reputations.
Yeah, ostracize.
Yeah, so that's
girls.
And that's what you had. You had through the smartphone. It's a funny name, isn't it? The smartphone.
I know.
But the smartphone became the perfect tool for the mean girls to exercise their cruelty on the people who didn't quite, live up to their standards.
Right. So he's saying So this was like 2014 or something like that. When was
I don't remember the exact date.
Right. But when he was writing about it, it was basically if you had already
2008 is when the iPhone came out, right?
So if you got an iPhone or a smartphone at the 8th grade.
Yeah.
By the time so he's talking about, all right, we're talking about the kids who's starting as freshmen.
Yeah.
Who've already have 4 years
of being on a smartphone.
Right. And they come in with this weird emotional expectation of not hearing anything unkind, and now you've got safe spaces
And there's the idea that the parents are going to come in and sort things out. This was something my father said when I was a kid.
But it's kind of, but it's also, it's linked to the previous levels of safetyism.
Yes.
Where you shouldn't prick, you shouldn't cut yourself. You shouldn't get a skinned up knee. You shouldn't.
And you should also not feel uncomfortable.
Right.
So I remember one time my dad was driving me somewhere, and the topic of organized sports came up, boys club, that sort of thing. And my dad said, "Why can't kids just play?" And the problem with organized sports is you've always got the adult who's going to come in and fix things for you.
Yes.
And that's the environment these people grew up in.
I worked with a guy who told me a story about yelling at his kids that his kids wanted to play baseball, but they wanted parents to be there to regulate
right.
the whole thing. He's like,
no,
go house to house, gather your friends. You can use your jackets as bases,
right.
and find a place.
You make things. You make up the rules.
The whole thing was just the kid. The kid was just like he didn't understand.
Didn't understand the concept.
The concept
right.
of not having supervised fun.
Yeah, we did that all the time. You just gather a bunch of kids together, you'd play baseball, or you'd go play football, or you'd do whatever.
Yeah.
You play
baseball, like you don't have enough players. Like, all right, right field is an out. You have to. Okay, we don't have a right field.
Yeah, we don't have a right fielder. So, yeah, and you made up your own rules, and you had to solve conflicts, or you were going to fight.
Yeah.
So you learned to solve conflicts, and you learned to get over stuff.
And you're making or you're making up a game.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, so this is worth 1 point and this is worth 2. It's like, that is so much harder. Let's make it 3. Right? I mean, like that.
Yeah.
That's sort of gaming.
Negotiation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's like, and reasoning out. You're like,
and it's not the parents coming in and saying, no, here are the rules, and we're going to impose that.
The 3,
and, yeah. So that was a problem. Also, is when sports became not just kids going out and playing, but everything being supervised by adults with all these rules and
so
referees.
Now we have organized, unstructured playtime.
Right.
Like, what are you talking about? All right, so we're all going to get together, but we're not going to.
I need to arrange a play date.
Yes, we're going to arrange a play date, but it's going to be unstructured. Well, you just structured it right there.
Yeah, it's all kind of funny.
So this is. So Haidt and Lukianoff focused on the unintended consequences of safetyism.
Yeah.
The idea that people are weak and should be protected rather than exposed to challenges. Safety culture has the best of intentions, protect kids from danger. It began with a focus on physical safety, removing sharp objects, yada, yada, yada. However, taken together, the focus on physical and mental safety makes young people weaker.
Yeah.
And the playground should not be so safe that no kid could ever get hurt. And they have those like spongy things. It's like, no, they can get hurt.
Let them get hurt.
That's the point.
Yeah.
And that's how you learn to negotiate to not get hurt.
Yeah.
But of course, it only comes with getting hurt. And you know what? Yes.
It's sort of like this. I had this friend, Paul, who was always he was Ugandan, but he had a British accent, and he was always following stuff in Britain. And in Britain, they had this survival training that military guys would have to go through.
Okay.
And every once in a while, somebody would die on the survival training thing because it was actual survival training, So there would always be a big debate about this. Should this be possible? Should it be possible to die during? And other people would say, well, if it's not possible to die, it's not really survival training, right? So the question then becomes, is it okay to lose a couple of people every once in a while so that you're actually training the other people to be able to survive? And I think the same exact logic applies to this thing of keeping everybody safe. So, okay, fine. We keep everybody safe, and there are fewer calamities where kids get an arm chopped off or, die or something or other. But what we've done is we've made all the kids less resilient, weaker. We've made all the kids are now softer than they would have been if they had. So it's a horrible trade-off.
It is.
To think we're gonna allow the possibility.
So you're sacrificing children. Well, that's not what I'm saying, but
yes. But yes, basically what we're saying is
there has to be danger to learn from the danger.
Yes, there has to be some level of danger. So the question is always, where's the balance? How much danger is appropriate? And there has to be some, or you're just going to get a bunch of marshmallows. You're going to get, what was that animated film came out a little while ago where everybody had everything they wanted and they were all fat and couldn't do anything?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. I don't remember what
Was
the
that
show was
WALL-E?
called. Maybe. Yeah,
yeah,
WALL-E. Right. Yeah. So you have to, and there's also, if you look at animal behavior, one of the things that animals do is they play fight. And through play fighting, they're learning all kinds of things. They're learning how much force is an appropriate amount of force in this situation.
Yes.
Without actually hurting the other person.
Like smear the queer?
Or dodgeball.
Yeah, right. So in schools stopped dodgeball. They stopped anything that any kid could get hurt from, and
or get their feelings hurt.
The result is you have young adults who are mentally and emotionally stunted.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember taking martial arts, and one of the really important lessons taking martial arts is it's perfectly okay to get hit from time to time. It's better to get hit in this environment,
right?
Where you're learning.
You know what it's like.
Yeah, and it's okay. I remember one time talking to the guy who was teaching the class, and he would do various things. It would hurt like crazy, pressure point stuff and submission holds and that sort of thing. And the rule basically was, I can cause pain, I just don't want to injure you, right?
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
Yeah.
And you learn how to fight, how to do those things in a right environment.
So you know what? Let me tell you what inspired this safetyism. We've talked about this before, Jonathan Haidt and the Coddling and all of that. I'm at work and school is closing early. Well, I do that just with 5 snowflakes. And I'll talk about that too. But I hadn't heard of this one. High winds. And I'm like, what? High winds? Well, there haven't been any tornadoes.
Yeah.
But there are certain conditions that are
might possibly have a tornado.
So in the entire Washington-Baltimore metropolitan area, it is, in fact, possible that a tornado could touch down between 4 and 5. So everybody is we're going to send everybody home at 2 to make sure that they're in their houses, which, if there's a tornado, could strike the house.
Yeah.
And also, how much? So I'm going how much convenience for what benefit?
Yeah.
Are we doing things?
And also, there's always the trade-off. I mean, remember Thomas Sowell? There are no solutions, only trade-offs.
Yes.
So now we're sending all these kids home at 2. So what does that mean? That means all kinds of parents are going to have to leave work to go pick up their or something, right?
Yeah.
They're going to have to be. So you're never solving something. You're just trading off one thing for another thing, and it's not necessarily going to make it better. Like, for example, there was a time when a mother on an airplane could have a child in her lap.
Yeah.
And then for some reason, for safety reasons, they said, no, the child has to be in its own seat. Well,
still, I mean, is that recent?
This was a while ago. I remember reading about this like 20 years ago. The idea was, if for safety's sake, this child is safer in a seat on their own. Well, Thomas Sowell wrote this column and said, yes, it's true that the child is safer in a seat on its own. But what that means is mom has to buy 2 tickets.
Yeah.
And so now the choice is between buying 2 tickets on an airplane, which is inherently safer, or buying 2 tickets on a bus, which is less safe, right?
Yeah.
So you really haven't made the kids safer by. So a lot of these times, these decisions that people make, saying, "Oh, we're going to make the kids safer," you have to say, as compared to what? You have to say, what's the trade-off? And having the kid sitting in his mother's lap on an airplane is safer than having the kid on a bus.
Yes, and you talk about how many people are inconvenienced financially versus for what? How many kids are injured in a how many infants are injured in a plane Due to what, turbulence or something? If the plane crashes, it doesn't matter.
Right.
So you're saying there's possible turbulence that could lend, and for that possibility of millions and millions and millions of miles flown, you're going to spend millions of dollars for the extra.
Yeah, it's this question. People don't understand the concept of trade-offs, and that's what a lot of the safetyism stuff is trying to make everything safe, make everything perfect, and you can't do it. And
so while we're in the plane,
yeah,
how about the shoe bomber?
Yeah.
So a single guy tries to let his shoe on fire.
He was too stupid to do that.
It fails. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how many flights domestically and internationally come into the United States how many millions of hours of people tying shoes is taking place because one failed guy one time.
Yeah. Yeah.
It can't be the threshold. It can't be one guy one time does one thing.
A lot of times.
And then the entire population is inconvenienced forever.
Sometimes these things are so unbelievable that you think they're really not doing this for safety's sake. They're just doing this like in 1984.
This is the thing they wanted to do.
Yeah. At the end of 1984, when Winston, is that his name, asked the guy, why are you doing this? Because we can.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to wonder, are they just doing this just to?
Well, now that you brought up COVID, people have wondered, is this just an authoritarian test run?
Mm-hmm.
What can we get people to do with the right amount of fear?
Right.
And because they had war gamed this thing, they're like, what if a virus comes and kills, 100,000 people in Britain?
Right.
What would we do? Or whatever the number was. It was way more than the actual people that died in COVID.
Yeah.
What would we do? Shutting down the country never occurred to them in this whole wargaming thing. Mm-hmm. Then they see the Chinese do it.
Yeah.
And they're like, wait a minute.
Maybe we can shut down the country.
Maybe we can shut down the whole country.
Right.
And, was it a test run to see how authoritarian, if you can just say, for your safety, everybody is going to do this thing. No matter how dangerous the vaccine might be, or how inconvenient, or how much we ruin the economy, or whatever.
They wanted to see how much we have become sheep.
Yes. And they were stunned. They're like, really? You just say it?
Can we relate that maybe to the continuing decrease in testosterone? Is there a relationship between those two things?
Yeah, well, it's testosterone, it's safetyism, it's increased authoritarianism all together. Because you will see in the 20 years from now, you'll see 20 years before COVID, 20 years after, and it'll be like the annual death rate in the United States.
There'll be a little blip there.
And then a little blip, and you'll go, to your grandchildren. You see that, son? With a magnifying glass. You see that blip? We shut down the entire planet for that blip.
Yeah. It's kind of amazing. Yeah. All right, so let's talk about some modern examples of safetyism. All right.
I got two new stories. I got two other stories. Recent stories.
Yeah.
Since I got the idea of it. One of them was, during the show, they're like, a single case of measles was found in the Baltimore region.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for like that was the cliffhanger. You found out that one case of measles. We grew up. But everybody got measles and chicken pox. But now it's breaking news.
Yes.
That there's a single case. Then there's the other one was they found a body in the Inner Harbor.
Doesn't that happen every couple of years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're like, so the discussion was, is it time that we put up 2 miles of railing
all the way around?
For what? Because one drunk every couple of years wanders out of Fells Point and
falls in the water and can't swim.
And falls, so is that the level of expense and inconvenience that you're going to do for a single? We're going to
inconvenience everybody because
forever.
Yeah.
Because All right.
Okay, so here we go. Here are some modern examples of safetyism. Campus speech restrictions. Right? Nobody's allowed to come in and burst your little bubble about the way you think the world works.
But they're not even going to the speech.
Right.
They just know that
they're
the
outside,
person. Yeah. They're in their dorm room.
Yeah.
sweating because
there's a person down there saying things that I don't like.
Things in the auditorium on the other side of campus.
Yeah, it makes them feel unsafe.
And now it's unsafe.
Yeah.
Right. Apparently, unsafe is like the catchword for you have to stop doing what you're doing.
Right. Yeah. How about, we talked about overprotective parenting, removing all playground equipment, banning.
I don't even have diving boards anymore.
Right. Banning tag, dodgeball, cartwheels, free range parenting is.
Did you say near the queer?
Free. Yeah, you can say that. Workplace overcaution, where you have safety regulations. And now, safety regulations are really important for certain things.
Right, there's the OSHA stuff, that's fine.
Yeah. Trigger warnings. Gosh. So,
I mean, how can you... The idea that you would attend a Shakespeare play...
Mm-hmm.
That's a tragedy. It says right there in the handbook. And you need a warning ahead of time that something tragic might happen.
Right.
In the fakiest ass way. It's not even like a realistic movie looking stabbing.
Yeah.
It's right here in front of you.
Stabbing.
Totally pretend.
Yeah.
You have we're going to make sure that everybody is aware because you could be triggered at the sight of fake stabbing.
Yeah. Yeah. Warning label proliferation. Liability-driven stuff. I think a lot of the things that we run into today are because there's lawsuits and people are afraid of getting sued, so they do that. And then content moderation. Look at what happened, during COVID, where they're afraid that having other views out there is going to ruin everything.
Right, that misinformation, disinformation, two words
I
never heard of before, could lead somebody somewhere to do something.
Yeah.
And we all must be protected from that. And so let's just basically ban free speech.
So I thought this was a good core critique of safetyism.
All right.
Is that it's self-defeating. Eliminating small, manageable risks often produces larger, harder to see harms.
Oh, that's great. That's exactly it. That is the heart of the problem.
You want to keep people from stubbing their toes, so you make everything so safe that now they can't do anything.
Everybody's wearing big giant boots, and then
they're wearing a helmet from the moment they wake up in the morning. You wake up in the morning, you put on your helmet, put on your safety boots.
And then they fall in a swimming pool, and the helmet makes them drown, and then they can't get out of it.
Right.
You ready to wrap this up?
Yeah.
So, worked with this guy, Jimmy, since retired. Great guy, gregarious guy.
Mm-hmm.
The guy would come around and individually every morning, how do you do? Good morning, how's it going? Everybody. He didn't even work in our department.
Mm-hmm.
Just passed through. In the evening, same thing.
Right.
Except for his evening and particularly his weekend salutation was it, hey, have fun this weekend, you guys. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. No. Hey, be safe. And I was always like, thanks, Mom. Thanks, right. Jimmy Buzzkill.
Yeah.
So prioritizing the be safe. How about have fun this weekend?
Right.
No. Number one.
Be safe.
Be safe.
Yeah. So recently I went mountain biking with one of my kids, and it's not safe. Now, we wore helmets, and we weren't being crazy, but no, it's not safe. You can run into things. You can hurt yourself, but you're not going to die.
Yeah, I would say, let me see, one of my sons broke a leg playing rugby. It has head stitches, fell out of a car in Mexico. The other one broke his clavicle, also got some stitches. I mean, not feeling as if I did a good job as a parent. But my kids didn't survive childhood with zero damage.
Wrapped in bubble wrap.
All right.
So have fun.
Have fun.
And do some dangerous things.
Yeah. Don't be safe.
Cheers. Thanks so much for listening. Be sure to like this video and share it with your friends.